Hey everyone, this is the Rewriter writing in. For today's video, I want to start a new series on my channel where I look at stories that I really enjoy and basically explain my thoughts as to why I love them. For my first video in this series, I thought that it would be fitting to look at one of my favorite games of all time, Batman Arkham Asylum. Also, I want to mention that I'll be fully spoiling the game and will be doing so with all the other games that I'll talk about in this series in the future. So without further ado, let's dive into Batman Arkham Asylum's story. First, I want to start off with the atmosphere and overall feel of the game. I really love how the first cutscene of this game shows a dark, rainy night in Gotham, followed by the lonely, ominous road down to Arkham Asylum. This cutscene gets the game going by creating a darker, grittier atmosphere than is found in most Batman video games of the past. Once Batman enters into the asylum, the player gets to see the grungy, almost ancient halls of the asylum, with some modern touches like the body scanner that they go through while escorting the Joker to his cell. This gives the player the sense that this complex has been through hell, and clearly houses the most dangerous criminals in Gotham. I also love this opening as we get to see areas and enemies that we'll get to interact with later in the story, such as Killer Croc. Once we're able to get out of the penitentiary and the map opens up, allowing the player to go to the different landmarks, we get to truly immerse ourselves in the beauty but hostility of Arkham Island. Going to landmarks such as the hospital are frightening as you get to see the dilapidated hallways where there are blood stains and bullet holes. As well, the fact that the first Scarecrow encounter here is just genius, as it creates just another level of tension above already being in a creepy hospital that has been overrun by psychos. I admire how each landmark feels different from one another. Not that they're just bland buildings you have to get through, but rather important facilities that have backstory and a personality of their own. I also love the isolation that we feel as we see Gotham all the way in the distance, and yet we're stuck fighting for our lives on the island. The tone and atmosphere of this game is mature, dark, and at times pretty scary. You really feel like you're in danger the entire time, and it's awesome. Next, I want to talk about the characters, as they are all incredibly well done. Paul Dini's writing of these characters is spot on, as he fully understands the motivations and goals of each of them, making them feel like real believable people. Now yes, I know that they're exaggerations of people, but yet their motivations and their goals make them seem like real characters, if that makes sense. Some examples of this include Joker's main goal with Batman, which is not just to simply kill him like every other generic villain, but rather that he wants Batman to see the world as Joker sees it, and almost sympathize with him. He understands that Batman is the flip side of the same coin, and seeks to make it so that there is only one side, both of them on the side of anarchy. He's so focused on Batman that he doesn't care who he hurts. And this feeds great into Harley Quinn's arc, as throughout the story, she is simply trying to impress Joker by putting Batman in all of these elaborate traps, but failing every time. When Batman is able to apprehend her, Joker simply laughs and jokes about her failure and moves on. One last example is the struggle between Aaron Cash and Killer Croc, as Croc bit off Cash's hand during an escape attempt. It's clear that Cash would rather have Croc killed than just keep him alive, and worst off well fed, down under Arkham Asylum. So these are just a few examples of the depth that many of these characters have that inhabit this world. Now, I also want to mention that I feel that each villain that they put into this game fit it very well. Now, what I mean by this is that there are many villains that they could have put in this game, but I don't think that they would have fit the story or characters' needs. A great example of a villain that is perfect for a game like this is Scarecrow, who thrives on putting Batman in uncomfortable and uncertain situations, such as him being in a taken over hospital on a taken over island, and letting the fear that is building up inside him ultimately consume him. Another character who worked so well in this game was Killer Croc, who made the Arkham Island feel even more dangerous, as Batman didn't just have to be worried about the crazies in the buildings themselves, but also about what was underneath them, like a monster hiding under the bed. It made for real tension as you didn't know when he would strike, and you always had to be on your toes. You see, characters like Two-Face and Penguin work so much better for Arkham City, as there's more territory for them to control their gangs. And it was awesome being in an area like the Bowery in Arkham City and feeling like you were in Penguin's territory. I just feel that the Asylum would have been too cramped for characters like these to shine. Now, another point I want to bring up on the subject of characters is how I love that this game is essentially a quote-unquote sequel to the Batman the Animated Series. This is due to the fact that the main characters from the animated series are voiced by the same actors. Batman by Kevin Conroy, Joker by Mark Hamill, and Harley Quinn by Arlene Sorkin. Plus, a fun fact, the original voice actress for Catwoman in the animated series, Adrienne Barbeau, plays the female voice of Arkham that plays over the intercoms before Joker takes it over. But it's not just the voice actors that make it feel like a sequel, but also in the character designs, as they all feel like they are a natural evolution from the animated series to now. Rocksteady didn't have to make this a quote-unquote kind of sequel to the animated series. They could have hired different voice actors and had different character designs, and people probably wouldn't have cared too much. But the fact that they did do this is so awesome for someone like me, who is a huge fan of the animated series, as my favorite Batman and Joker are Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill respectively. This also just gives so much depth to this game, as it's clear that there's a lot of history between Batman and the many characters of this game. So now that we've gone over the characters and the atmosphere of the game, let's get into the story. Now for me, this is my second favorite story in this series, just closely behind Arkham City. While I believe that this story is incredible, there are only a couple of complaints that I have with it, but I'll get to those later. For now, I just want to give a brief synopsis of the main story before diving deeper into it. So Batman captures Joker after an assault on Gotham City Hall, where he's caught all too easily. Knowing that there's something fishy about this, Batman takes Joker back to the Asylum, but then goes in personally to see that Joker is put away and that there's nothing bigger going on. While bringing Joker through the penitentiary, Joker comments about how crazy it is that a fire at Blackgate caused all of his crew to be moved to Arkham. After they lead Joker to the cells, Batman is told to stay back while the security guards take Joker to his cell. Joker breaks free with the help of Harley Quinn, informing Batman that he has sprung his trap and that now he was the one who was taken hostage in Arkham. Joker also reveals that if the police try to get to the asylum to apprehend him, that he will start detonating random bombs around the city, which ends up being false. Once Batman is able to save some guards and escapes the penitentiary, he heads to the hospital to track Harley, who had Gordon kidnapped. After an encounter with Scarecrow, Batman finds Gordon, but not before he gets attacked by Bane. After subduing Bane, Batman heads to his secret Batcave on Arkham Island to restock his gadgets. Here, he learns that Joker returned to Arkham to gain access to Dr. Young, who has been developing Titan, a more powerful version of the Venom drug, who is trying to use it to help her patients survive more strenuous therapies. When she finds out that Joker was secretly funding her project to create Titan to create superpowered henchmen, she refused to give him the formula, prompting him to return to Arkham. After having her killed, Joker obtains completed batches of Titan and starts mass producing it. Once Batman tracks down Quinn, she reveals that Joker has a Titan production facility under the Botanical Gardens. Now, skipping a bit, once Batman is able to obtain the antidote for the Titan, he goes back to the gardens to defeat the Titan-infused poison ivy plants before heading over to the Visitors Center for Joker's party. Once there, it's revealed that Joker's plot with Batman that I discussed earlier, along with how he was trying to inject Gordon with Titan before accidentally shooting Batman with it. Batman uses the cure on himself before Joker shoots himself with the Titan, becoming a giant monster. Once Batman defeats him, the police are able to get back on the island and subdue the rest of the criminals. So now diving deeper into the story, one of the things that I love about the narrative is that it flips the script, where everyone else just thinks it's a routine night with Batman bringing the Joker in, but instead it's a carefully crafted scheme that has probably been planned for months. It truly feels that things have gone horribly wrong, and that only Batman can stop this plot from getting out of control. Something else that I love about the plot is how each villain encounter feels natural and makes sense, instead of a villain being just there because they're a character that Rocksteady likes. I'm pointing at you, Jason Todd. It makes sense that Batman would fight Scarecrow in the hospital. The encounter with Killer Croc makes sense because Batman has to collect spores to use to create a cure for the Titan. And Poison Ivy makes sense because her plants and spores are used to create the Titan formula. Each villain has a purpose in the story, and Paul Dini weaved the villains in a natural and awesome way. Now, another thing I love is how Batman is having to continually adapt in the story, getting new gadgets that tip the odds back in his favor. When you start the game, you only have batarangs, which was a great touch as it gives the game a survival aspect as you aren't fully kitted in the beginning and are forced to use your brain intelligently to make it through the asylum. Now, additionally, I love all the Easter eggs and secrets scattered throughout the asylum that either point towards future plot points like the map of Arkham City, or are just references to classic characters and events of many iconic Batman story arcs in the comics. All of these Easter eggs show that the developers of this game truly love the characters and this world that they are creating stories in, and this aspect of each Arkham game quickly became some of the best parts about them. Now, a YouTube channel called Batman Arkham Videos just made an entire video on all the Easter eggs and secrets in Arkham Asylum, so if you haven't checked that one out, you definitely should because it's really, really cool. Some of the things that even me playing through the Arkham games multiple times, I never knew those Easter eggs and secrets were there. So that's something pretty cool, and if you don't know about his channel, you should definitely go check it out because it's pretty sweet. Now, back to my video. Something else that's awesome about this game is the dialogue of the henchmen. Their dialogue is great because most of the time it's really funny with the thugs ragging on each other for being stupid or talking about being scared with all the lunatic inmates running around the asylum. But sometimes their dialogue would also flesh out the world, with them talking about their backstories and little extra nuggets of information about Joker's plot. And this actually leads me to a bigger point, which is that I love the way that the additional lore and world building is handled in this game. You can collect character bios, interviews, Riddler trophies, and scan those Amadeus Arkham shrines for additional background on many of Batman's rogues, allies, and information about him. These are a great incentive for people to go back and try to find all these collectibles to learn more lore and explore the map. However, these aren't required for people who don't care about collectibles, as they're not missing any important aspect of the main story. But for lore buffs like myself, I thoroughly enjoyed reading and listening to the backstories of tons of characters. All of this culminates in extra story details that are there for you if you want to search them out, which shows the dedication of this writing team to this world. Now, the main and side stories told in this game are phenomenal, though for me, not without some fault. So my first gripe with this game is that Joker's initial breakout when he's being led by the guard to his cell feels a bit too convenient. Now let me explain this. This game does such a fantastic job at filling in the details and answering some questions that people might have, such as, why are all the Joker's thugs here? Because of the fire at Blackgate. Why don't the police just show up and apprehend Joker? Because of the bombs scattered throughout Gotham. Why is Joker even at the asylum? Because Dr. Young refused to give Joker the formula. You see, many of these questions and concerns have well thought out answers and reasoning behind them. But then when it comes to Joker breaking free from the guards, it's all too convenient. Batman could have easily walked with the guards to put Joker in his cell. They already let him walk all the way through the penitentiary. Why wouldn't they just let Batman put Joker in his cell? He'll unsettle the more violent inmates, is the answer Batman receives. What this all boils down to is just Joker guessing that Batman will be held back and not allowed to lead him to his cell. I feel that after answering and giving these other points consideration, it just feels kinda lazy and a cop-out. The second thing that always kinda bothered me was Bane's minuscule role in this greater story. The Titan is an advanced strain of Venom, and yet Bane has barely anything to do with this plot, and gets one boss battle in the beginning and never shows up again. I really dislike that they made Bane this dumb, hulking brute. I much prefer the Bane from Arkham Origins, and wish that this was what Bane was like in this game. Cunning, strategic, and insanely strong. That would have been kinda cool to see Bane and Joker teaming up in this story to take Batman down together. Now my last gripe with the story comes at the end. The first thing that I don't like is how Joker is mad at Batman for being at the party, even though the whole night he spent building the visitor center up to be a grand party and had Batman be the guest of honor. But then when he shows up, he's angry at Batman for taking down the other villains. Joker is a character who could care less what happens to the other rogues. He only cares about his own ambitions, so I just feel that this was a bit out of character. The other thing I don't like is the final boss. This feels like such an anticlimactic final fight, whereas the other boss fights are much better. I personally don't think someone as cunning as Joker would have the final stage of his plan be injecting himself with Titan. What I think would have been cooler is either 1. Injecting Gordon with the Titan formula and sending him loose in Gotham, and Batman has to track him down before he kills a bunch of civilians. Or 2. Inject Batman with the Titan, have Joker take hold of the cure, and then have a bunch of henchmen gang up on Batman in an attempt to goad Batman into killing all of them, with Joker trying to get Batman to turn into a dark side version of him. I know these ideas aren't the best, but anything would be better than what we got. In all though, I really do love this narrative, even with some of its flaws, because it took risks in its storytelling and paved the way for the best superhero video game ever made, Batman Arkham City, and gave us the start to the best superhero video game franchise ever. The villains they chose for this story were excellent, and it wraps up in a pretty satisfying manner. Paul Dini truly is a legend, and I really wish he would have written the story of Arkham Knight. It would have been so much better. But that's all I have for this video. This video was much shorter than my previous ones because I want these videos to be more laid back and feel like chatting among friends. So let me know what you thought about it in the comments section. Let me know your thoughts on Batman Arkham Asylum. Did you love it, hate it, or are you somewhere in between? Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. And I'm trying really hard to reach 100 subscribers, so if you enjoy the content, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching everyone, and this is the Rewriter, writing out.